So firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone that watched my video. A special thanks to those that subscribe to the channel and to everyone that left a comment. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to comment on the videos that I'm making. It means a huge amount. The other thing that surprised me massively is the amount of time that it takes to make these videos. So huge appreciation also to all the content creators who have made such a difference in my life as I've watched content to discover more about myself and learn more about other people's experiences of happiness to find my own. So firstly, thank you very much, and I'll give you a tour, as I promised, of my house and where I'm living in Siem Reap. So welcome to my home, and I moved here about a year ago in January, moving from the Wat Bo area to slightly further outside of the city centre. I'm about 1.5 kilometres from the Angkor Wat temple complex. But as you can see, I have a swimming pool and a very simple space, but makes me incredibly happy inside the house. I seem to have accumulated quite a bit of stuff in the few years that I've been in Cambodia, so that's littering and making my place look quite busy, I guess. The other great thing is I have this amazing atrium inside my house, which with a great big tree that's growing up inside, so it brings the outside in, and I'm a huge fan of nature. So I have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's split over 2 levels. There's a kitchen and dining room and a large living room on the other side of the atrium. And then upstairs I have 1 room that I've converted into an office and a bedroom and 2 bathrooms. The one thing to mention, I guess, is kind of key is, my landlord is awesome because I rent this property, and he has just made it so much fun living here. Any problems, any issues, any concerns, he immediately fixes them, which is just awesome. In terms of rent, I pay, I think it's $550 a month. He gave me a $100 discount, so it should have been $650 because I signed a long-term contract. And the bills, I guess, I'm still not very used to the weather, despite being here for 4 years. So I have the air conditioning running almost constantly. So there's about another $150 in bills to add to the rent, making my living costs around $700. So still a fraction of what it would cost to rent even a small room back home in London. So I hope you enjoyed my home, and for the next part of the video I'll take you on a tour around the old market, where we'll talk a little bit about the differences between the UK and Cambodia. I still remember my first visit to the Kingdom of Wonders many, many years ago. I remember walking out of the capital's airport for that first time, being greeted by the familiar heat and humidity, but there was a very different vibe to other cities in Asia. The cries from the taxi drivers and rickshaws looking to secure a fare into the city, SIM card sellers competing with the taxi drivers in volume for the attention of the arriving passengers, food stalls trying to draw the attention of passers-by to sell their delicacies, hawkers selling their wares, and of course the rather visually overwhelming and equally loud Khmer families waiting for their loved ones to return wearing their Sunday best. There was an energy that charged the air and made me feel alive. Some for sure would describe the scene as chaotic, using the word chaotic as a negative, but for me, what greeted me back then instantly made me feel alive and excited to discover more about this mysterious country. To be honest, I still have the same excitement about Cambodia to this day. So to the point of this section of the video, what do I think are the main differences between the UK and Cambodia? But before I start, I just want to stress that for me, any difference is always great. If I wanted to be surrounded by the same, I would have stayed in the UK, where life was all so familiar, or based myself in another Southeastern Asian country like Singapore or Malaysia. Despite living in the kingdom for 4 years and Asia collectively for over 20, I am constantly discovering new wonderful things about Cambodia. There is something truly incredible, if you look for it, around every single corner. For me, the unfamiliar is what is so exciting about expat life, and it is always a little confusing to me when I read negative comments about life here and complaints about things versus the way they are done back home. I do think that sometimes people need to recognise they are in Cambodia and not their country of origin. We have been accepted and embraced by the country and people. We're guests in their world, and it's up to us to adapt or move on, rather than Cambodia adapting to us. So what are the most noticeable differences? So I guess there's a list of the obvious: Buddhist temples, rice paddies, the language, the local food. But if we scratch the surface a little deeper, things like Cambodia is a lot more free than the West. And this unregulated and largely unpoliced society can, for some, if it's the first time of experiencing it, be a little bit shocking. Another very noticeable difference is driving. Sure, the traffic flows, but not in a way that makes sense to me still, even on my bike or in the car. But in its own special way, it works just perfectly, even with the near misses. Another difference is funerals and Buddhist events are often very, very, very noisy and run from dawn until dusk over several days. But it's great to celebrate life. Infrastructure is also a huge point of difference at every level. If I just think about one part of infrastructure and connectivity, I'm pulling together this vlog from an internet cafe as my Wi-Fi is down again at home. Bureaucracy is also another big point of difference. Regulations for business are complicated and largely paper-based. I have to frequently travel down to the office in Phnom Penh to sign documents as a digital signature is just not good enough. But like everything, there is an upside, and the upside is I get to see more of this beautiful country and spend time with friends and colleagues in the big smoke. Personally, and this is a big one for me, a big difference is the bond that exists within the family units here. Whilst I fully appreciate that children are expected to support their parents later in life, isn't this the way that it should be? Again, it's not my place to try and fit this system into a Western model or fit this relationship within a family into a Western model, as there is no pension, for example, that passes the responsibility to the government for taking care of parents in their old age. It is true, and I value this particularly, that close bonds with family are very special. I found out personally that as I got older and in my life before, the time I devoted to my family was less and less as my career took over. I lost my mother a couple of years ago, and I'd give anything to have as close a bond with her as is the norm here in Cambodia. So to summarise, yes, there are a huge amount of differences, and I've just literally scraped the surface and picked out a few of the obvious ones. But to try and explain the differences versus a Western value system is, in my mind, both pointless and unnecessary. We should embrace the differences and recognise that we've been given a special pass to enter their world. To enter Cambodia, it's our responsibility to adapt or move on. So just before I close this part of the vlog, and I'm sure this is obvious to all, if we just think about infrastructure for a moment. If Cambodia had the infrastructure of the West and the regulations that frame life there, we'd also be contributing to these costs through more expensive rents. For those of us that work, we'd be paying higher taxes, both personal and business rates. And that Friday night beer wouldn't be $1, it would be $5. We all have a choice, and let's be honest that by being here we are braver than most and more adventurous. So rather than look at the negatives, let's embrace the positives and practice a daily routine of gratitude to reinforce just how lucky we are to be alive in this beautiful kingdom of wonders. into this video and before I wrap it up for the day, I just wanted to share with you something that really helped me snap out of the depression I was in and find happiness here in Cambodia. I think as our lives get busier and we get more involved, more pressure, more stress, life just becomes more. We often forget to say thank you for the things that we do have because we're so focused on the things that we don't. So as part of my daily routine, normally when I wake up first thing in the morning, is I say thank you. And I'm not sure who I'm saying thank you to because I'm not particularly religious, but I say thank you to whoever for the things that I have in my life. So my health, my refound happiness, the beautiful part of the world that I live in, and the fact that I can go about my day doing things that I love in a business that I love in a country that I love. So gratitude has become an important part of my daily routine so that I never lose sight of what I do have rather than focus on the things that I don't. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.